Imagine growing up in a time when go play outside was not advice, it was a rule. No GPS, no smartphones, no Google. If you were late, nobody panicked. They just assumed you were somewhere. That was the world people from the 1970s grew up in, and it quietly shaped their psychology in ways you can still notice today. The way they think, react, and handle life feels different, almost calmer in today's always online world. People who grew up in the 1970s learned independence very early. Not the motivational quote kind of independence, but real independence. As kids, they walked to school alone, remembered directions without maps, and figured things out on their own. There was no instant entertainment waiting for them. If there was nothing to do, they didn't complain. They created something. A stick could become a sword, a box could become a spaceship, and a boring afternoon could turn into an adventure. Because of this, many of them grew into adults who were naturally creative and good at solving problems. Their minds learned how to improvise instead of scrolling for answers. Another strong psychological trait of people from the 1970s is their comfort with silence. Silence doesn't make them nervous. They don't feel the urge to grab their phone the moment a room gets quiet. Growing up, silence was normal. There were no constant notifications, no endless background noise from videos or music. There was time to think, imagine, and just exist. This is why many of them are good listeners today. They don't rush conversations, and they don't feel awkward during pauses. They let moments breathe instead of trying to fill every second. People who grew up in the 1970s also developed strong emotional resilience. Life back then didn't come with filters or trigger warnings. You fell down, you cried, and then you got back up. If someone teased you, you learned how to handle it. If you lost a game, you learned that disappointment wasn't the end of the world. This doesn't mean they didn't feel pain. It means they learned how to live with discomfort instead of running away from it. That's why many of them stay calm during stressful situations. They don't panic easily, and they don't turn every problem into a crisis. After all, they survived drinking water straight from a hose and lived to tell the story. One interesting and slightly funny trait of people from the 70s is their respect for objects. They don't throw things away easily. If something breaks, their first instinct is to fix it, not replace it. They truly believe that duct tape can solve most problems in life. This comes from growing up in a time when things were made to last. You didn't upgrade every year, and you didn't replace something just because a newer version existed. This mindset often carries over into relationships, too. They don't give up on people quickly and believe in working things out instead of walking away at the first inconvenience. People who grew up in the 1970s are naturally skeptical. They didn't grow up believing everything they saw or heard. They learned to question things, observe carefully, and rely on experience. If someone told them something, they didn't instantly accept it as truth. Proof mattered. Real-life experience mattered more than opinions. Because of this, many of them are not easily influenced by trends or online drama. They've seen many big things come and go, and they know that what feels important today might be forgotten tomorrow. They don't chase viral moments. They look for meaning. Their relationship with technology is especially interesting. People from the 70s didn't grow up with technology. They adapted to it. This makes a huge psychological difference. They remember life before the internet, so they don't feel controlled by it. Technology is a tool for them, not an identity. If the Wi-Fi stops working, they might get annoyed, but they won't feel lost. They know how to live offline. This is why many of them still prefer phone calls, face-to-face conversations, and real human interaction over constant messaging. Another subtle trait they carry is patience. Waiting was a normal part of life for them. Waiting for letters, waiting for photos to be developed, waiting for answers. Nothing was instant, and because of that, things often felt more valuable. Today, patience feels like a rare skill, but for people from the 70s, it's almost automatic. They understand that good things take time, and that life isn't supposed to move at internet speed. People who grew up in the 1970s also tend to have a strong sense of personal responsibility. When something went wrong, the first question was not who can I blame, but what can I do? This way of thinking builds quiet confidence. They don't need to announce everything they do, and they don't constantly seek validation. They know who they are without having to post it.
Perhaps the most fascinating thing about people from the 1970s is that they carry two worlds inside them. They remember simplicity, but live in complexity. They understand slowness, but function in speed. This balance gives them perspective. They know life isn't meant to be perfect, happiness isn't constant, and problems don't mean failure. They simply mean you're human. So when you meet someone who stays calm when everything feels chaotic, who doesn't panic without Wi-Fi, who listens more than they speak, and fixes things instead of replacing them, there's a good chance they grew up in the 1970s, not because that time was perfect, but because it trained the mind in ways modern life no longer does. And maybe, just maybe, there's something we can all learn from that mindset.